This is Avery Konrad, and you're listening to Monday Morning Critic.
So I have to say, you know, reading about your life, listening to other interviews, I was like, I really was trying to figure out what life would be like with dyslexia, trying to be an actor. Because I know Tom Cruise has it, I know Spielberg has it, Jennifer Aniston, I believe, has it. So how do you manage that, Avery, in day to day life? How do you manage, especially when it comes to acting, right? How do you do that?
I mean, everyone deals with it differently, I think. I've a spell check is great. iPhones are great for that for me. But when I was younger, it was more like reading out loud that was really nerve-wracking for me, which, when it comes to acting is kind of silly that was something that was nerve-wracking because that's essentially what you're doing sometimes, especially when you're like cold reading.
Right.
But I think I've overcome like most of my insecurities as I've gotten older. But when I was younger, it was definitely more of a struggle to kind of, work through those things.
So Avery, if I say, okay, listen, your character has 4 pages of dialogue in these next 2 episodes, how are you processing that? Is it just something you read aloud? Do you highlight certain things? How do you process those things? Are you saying that as you got older or as an adult, you feel like you've kind of managed as you've gotten along?
That's not memorizing has never been an issue for
Okay,
me.
okay,
I don't think that would be an issue at all. I've never had an issue memorizing.
okay.
I mean, I think with COVID, there was less like printing of sides when you have like, say, an audition.
Right.
For me, at least, just because like I don't want to be wasting all the paper. So I've kind of gotten used to like reading off a screen, which isn't like ideal because I do like to have something tangible to
Right.
hold
Right. Right.
when I'm working, say on From, and if there's like a lot of content that I need to prepare, then I prefer to have a firm copy. But yeah, memorizing has never been an issue, and I don't necessarily need to highlight things. That was more of like when I was starting out. But yeah, that's something that I've thankfully never had a problem with.
Yeah, because I've had other actors that have had dyslexia. I'm just fascinated by how somebody does it. Like some people have it worse than others, right? Some people have it. I've had actors talk about how they have their own system of processing, but clearly you've managed well, and clearly you're very good at your field. So I mean, you've done it, but I still think it's an amazing thing because, like, dyslexia is no joke, and it's very, as an actor, it's something I would believe would be, hard to overcome from an outsider looking in. But like I said, you've overcome it and done a great job, so that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about being dyslexic is like kind of special because your brain doesn't operate the same as everybody else's. And with
Yeah.
that being said, like lots of people are dyslexic. Like it's not an uncommon thing. I was just like lucky enough to know that I did have it, so I could learn in ways that made sense to me. But I think, yeah, like one side of your brain works harder than the other on certain days. Like it really depends. So I think that in a way, like being dyslexic has really helped me as well, more than hinder me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I always think about like you or any other actor that has it, or any kind of thing that would you've lived with in your life is like if you were at an audition and a director says, "Well, read this for me," or go through this for me, like something that's spur of the moment that you haven't had it. So I wonder how not only just you but other actors would deal with it. So I don't know. It's a very fascinating thing for me, and it's just I'm fascinated by hearing all these stories of actors that have clearly overcome it. So. Tell me a movie or an actor in your life, Avery, that has inspired you or motivated you. Because I know you said this quite a few times that the acting bug bit you early. I get that. Makes
Mhm.
sense. Makes sense. What about a movie or an actor in particular that you're like, wow, like that's heavy. That's even adding to my drive or my fuel as to wanting to succeed in this profession. Is there an actor or a movie or both that
If I'm being completely honest, this is not going to be the answer that anybody wants to hear, I don't think. But the movie that I saw when I was young, I saw a movie called Aquamarine. I don't know if you've heard of it.
yeah.
It's about this girl who's like a mermaid, and I don't know what it was about it, but I was like, that's what I want to do. I
But
want to do that. And I thought that was really exciting. And yeah.
Yeah, that's impressive. And you know, the fact it doesn't, you know, as long as it motivates you, what does it matter? What does it matter? You know? And I feel like you sacrifice a lot, Avery. I feel like actors who go all in, like you have gone all in, like this is what I want to do the rest of my life. You know, I think you mentioned in an interview prior, you were homeschooled,
Yeah.
but you've gone to schooling for acting. So like you've really been all in on this, right? So that's a sacrifice that's no joke, right? That's a huge sacrifice on your end. Do you feel that it's a sacrifice? Do you feel? I mean, if you're passionate, I suppose maybe not because you're living it. But do you feel like that it definitely is a sacrifice on your end that you've really put your life, your heart, your sweat, your tears into this?
I uh my first reaction is to say no, but
Mm,
I think with no matter what you do in life, there's always going to be sacrifice, even if it's something that you love. Um, I think I definitely, and like everybody else who is a competitive business as much as it is individual to the person, I think that yeah, I've sacrificed time and that kind of stuff, but I never really looked at it like that because I was building on something that I love to do, even if I wasn't if I wasn't booking anything or if I wasn't working. I knew ultimately that I was investing time more than sacrificing time to
right.
something that I really love and knew that I wanted to commit to.
Yeah. When you're watching TV just for pleasure, when you're binging whatever, when you're at the theater, is it hard not to be an actor and say I would have done it this way or geez, I wish is it can you ever put your acting brain aside and just enjoy something as a fan?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely get swept away in story and performances. Um, there are some times when I have like the critical thinking come on, but most of the time I'm yeah just enjoying a movie like any other viewer would.
Right, right. Is there anything you are binging that you love, or a movie that you've seen recently that you're
I yeah, I just am caught up on I just watched Yellow Jackets.
nice Showtime? Nice.
Yeah, so good. And I'm all finally caught up on that. I started season 1, I don't know, I finished season 1 within like a week,
Mm,
and now I'm watching season 2 as it airs.
right.
I'm watching a lot of RuPaul's Drag Race.
Nice, nice.
Um, and but yeah, Yellow Jackets is something that I'm watching right now
Very
currently.
nice. You know, I was thinking about today. I was going through your IMDb, and you know, like I said earlier in an interview, you're from an acting point of view, you're very gifted at what you do. You're a very good actor. You know,
Thank you.
yeah. And I was at a press junket for From last week, and they gave us 5 episodes into season 2, so I'm a little ahead of everybody else. But like, I don't know. I just really feel like you have it. Like you have that natural like ability. But it got me thinking, Avery, about something else, right? And people
Mhm,
don't talk about this, and I don't know why, but looks are a big part of it, right? So I feel like looking at your some of your work and your images, I feel like you are set up for a lot of different roles in a lot of different genres. I feel like there's nothing you can't do. It's almost like Brie Larson, like right. There's nothing that she can't do, right? There's certain actors where they can only do a couple of genres, a couple of different types of story plots. But I feel like not only your ability but your look give you a chance to really do things in a lot of different genres and a lot of different types of different stories. I don't know. It's just a compliment I felt like that you needed to hear. I just feel
that's
like
that's really nice, thank you, I appreciate that a lot.
yeah, and I feel like it's never talked about, but it's a thing. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, like you're not going to have. There are Academy Award winning actors that are not right for roles. I mean, no matter how talented they are, they can't crowbar the way they look or the way they approach a role. I don't know. That's just that's how I see things. Let me ask you this. So we talk about From, right, Sarah. How do you develop something like this? So I get it. Wonderful writing. I get that part of it.
Mhm.
Great show. I almost feel like I wish I'm doing everything I can to get more out there about this show because I feel like it is so good and so under the radar, right? Like
Yeah.
once I watched the first episode, like I was like, what the like like when I felt the same way when I get hit by The Walking Dead like 11 years ago. I was like, oh my god, like this is the best thing I've ever seen. Very similar to From, right? You're sucked into the story and forget it that you're in this awful place.
Yeah.
At nighttime, it gets even worse. So
Yeah.
before we get into nerdy plot points, I want to talk
Mhm.
about and I know you've answered this too, but I think it's important. Um, first I'll ask you, how did you get the role? Was it a huge audition? Did you feel pressure in the audition?
Um, Again, it was during COVID, so it's pretty low pressure, I feel, because I mean, I haven't had an in-room audition in years now, which is insane to think about. But my very first tape I did for this, I was there with my acting coach, Deb Podolsky, and she
Hmm.
coached me through the scenes. And then it was about 2 weeks later, I did the screen test, which was different because we had people on Zoom, and I'd never done. You're always in person, and the reader was on Zoom, which is also very bizarre. And I remember I went to go do my first scene, and something I could see myself in the screen. So I was like essentially doing the scene with myself, and I was like, this is terrible. I can't watch myself do this. So I got them to fix the screen, thankfully, and I got to do it again. But um, I mean, I definitely felt a lot of pressure when I was doing the screen test, and I had the option of knowing how many girls were reading for Sarah, and I said I didn't want to know because ultimately it doesn't matter how
That's
many
right.
or who it was.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, especially because I really, really loved this role a lot. And like I've said in the past, I was a huge fan of Lost. So yeah, I was definitely very nervous and feeling the pressure because you only have kind of one shot when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Once you start, yeah, great answer by the way. Once you start getting into that rhythm of auditioning in person, I think that's just going to help you big time because I feel like that brings a presence that like if you were reading for me and I was a director now or something, like it would be like I could tell how talented you are, but like if you're, it's not the same as if like you're in
No,
front of me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I spent the first half of my, I don't want to say life, but like first half of my acting journey auditioning in front of casting directors and people, and then all of a sudden it was all gone. So you learn to adapt, and everybody has had to do the same thing in this industry. But I do miss it some days a lot, just having those relationships with like casting, because you see them multiple times a week
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
So to go from seeing them and just hearing encouraging things from them as well, because they're rooting for you too, and then not seeing them at all is really kind of sad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What has your acting coach brought to you, Avery?
What
Outside
is
of confidence and teaching, yeah. Why is it? I mean, I know many actors have acting coaches, but
Yeah.
for you, Avery, why is an acting coach so important?
Man, I think getting, because I took a little break from training when I was like a teenager,
Hmm.
and I went and started training with Deb, and she just completely changed my work ethic, I think, and made me more confident in myself and just really refined a lot of things. And she also, from an outsider perspective, I think I've talked about this a lot too, is like you miss the little things because you're thinking of the entire thing, that
That's right.
sometimes you're missing the thing that's like sitting right in front of you. It's like, like the Where's Waldo books. And
Yeah, yeah,
he's just like standing right there, but you can't find him. So she kind of like points all the Where's Waldo guys out to me with that I can't find,
yeah,
and it just makes for more layers. And yeah, she just makes me a better actor.
yeah. It's a really good answer. And I swear, I feel like some actors when they get to a point, they're like, I'm good with an acting coach. I've got it on my own. But I feel like your answer makes it, not proves my point, but like solidifies my point that like she brings things out to you that you might not, that you might miss, that you might not notice, and that's huge as an actor. Like if you're just not going to change who you are as an actor, not really evolve, you're in big trouble, I think, Avery.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
mean, the world's always changing, and so is the industry, and you want to be growing with that, or you're gonna, I don't know, I don't ever want to quote unquote plateau, as not, I don't think you can really in this industry, just because when you go into a new project, it's always a new story and a different character, and you're learning new things about yourself as well, maybe you didn't necessarily know. But I think it's definitely important to keep yourself on your toes as well.
Yeah, that's a good answer. So Sarah is a very, we'll get into the from stuff now. Sarah's a very dark character. Um, I think, but I won't say too much. Well, I might say a little bit, but how do you how do you prep for something like this? And I got to believe, Avery, that playing somebody that's, I'm going to say dark again for lack of a better word,
Mhm.
it's exhausting. Like, my God, she doesn't, nothing good
No,
happens
I
to Sarah.
know. I
It's like,
know.
oh my God. So what am I doing today on set? What am I doing today on set? Oh, I'm attempting to murder a 5-year-old. Oh, okay. Like,
Yeah.
nothing good happens to this poor character. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you prep for it? How do you deal with it? I mean, what the heck?
Um, I found in season 1 was very different because we were kind of building everything, like,
Mm,
it yeah, we were kind of building everything, so coming into playing her in season 2 was also nerve-wracking because it's like, do I remember how to do this? Like,
mm,
is this gonna feel weird? Is it gonna be, am I gonna be bad? Like, you start to like doubt yourself. Just because also I had never played something twice.
right.
Like, I had never played a character twice. Um, but you just need to trust yourself and know that everything that you did last season also still lives inside of you, and your body's going to remember that, and react accordingly when you're dealing with new material and new arcs with the character. But as far as prepping goes, yeah, I found it was very different this season than last season because I just kind of was trying to trust myself as much as I could and knew that no matter how I was feeling on the day, that what came forward was what was meant to for the scene, along with also obviously prepping, just doing all the normal stuff, knowing your lines. Excuse me, coaching as well.
Yeah.
I coach all the episodes, and but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy and it can be very draining. I get very tense, like, physically. She's very tense all the time,
Yes.
obviously, with everything that she's dealing with, so I can get a little bit sore at the end of a couple months of doing that. Um, but it's all very interesting and exciting to be able to kind of fall back into something that feels familiar.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, it was a good growing experience to be able to come back to something.
Yeah, you do a great job portraying her. I said the word dark. What would you use to describe Sarah?
Excuse me. I think she's very dark. She's a lot of demons. Um, but the thing that I love about her so much is she doesn't she doesn't want she doesn't want them. She doesn't want them so badly more than anything. She just wants to help people and do the best she can, and she usually goes about it in the worst way possible
Yes,
because of
yes.
the circumstances of the town and everything that she's dealing with mentally and everything. But yeah, I think she's very dark and has a lot of demons, but I think there are also two sides to her where there's a lot of light as well that doesn't necessarily get to shine through because of where they're stuck.
Yeah.
Um, but I think you can kind of see that also in the way she dresses, like, too, is there's a lot of like there's a child in there still.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. I have to say, if I lived in this place, she would be the person that scares me the most because she kills her brother. A little bit of a
Yeah.
spoiler alert here, but nothing that ruins
Yeah.
the show. Kills her brother, puts Kenny's dad in a situation with the nurse that their demise comes because of her. She tried to
Mhm.
kill a 5-year-old, and it's not like the monsters that come at night where you know what they're what they're going to do, what their intentions are. Like, you want to believe that the people in the town at least can somewhat stick together, and to know that
Yeah.
there's somebody like Sarah out there that scares the crap out of me. Like, I was watching the first season, like I was so scared for everybody who was near and around Sarah, but like, again, it's a testament to your abilities as an actor, which is awesome. Like, those are the kind of characters that are most interesting to me, the ones that you can't predict, the ones that you don't know what's going on. And I don't know, she scares me the most, but in a good way, because of what you've created. So that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have to create your own so listen, I know the writers are fantastic. Do you
Yeah.
have to create your own backstory? Because a lot of actors create their own backstory, so it's kind of like momentum. Do you create your own backstory when it comes to Sarah? In your mind,
Um,
just for you.
I think it's necessary to do it for some parts. And again, like everyone's process is different. Some people have an entire catalog of things that their character has done, but because so much is revealed as we carry on about these characters, I don't want to put too many preconceived ideas on what I think her past was like,
Mm-hmm.
but having a solid foundation to work from in order to make the performance as full as possible.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Two last questions for you. One of which is just talk about the cast because the cast makes this show click really well.
Yeah.
For those people that haven't seen it yet, the cast just drives the show. It's just so good, and it is produced by, for those listening don't know yet, produced by the Russo brothers who directed Avengers Endgame, and it's just got a lot to it. It's a great show. Like I don't know how people aren't all over this yet, but Avery, anything you wanted to say about the cast? I'll leave that for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're so lucky to have such a huge cast. I've said this before many, many times. We all
Mm,
get along. We're kind of like, I think in season one, we were all hanging out all the time. And season two, we didn't like hang out as a huge group just because it became too hard with scheduling with shooting and everything. But we all like we have a group chat and we talk all the time and we're updating each other on things and everyone's just a great person and so incredibly talented and I love that like 90% of the cast is Canadian. I think that that's so cool. Being Canadian myself, obviously.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting for all of us and to be able to share this experience with so many of us. It's our first series and to be have a group of people to go through that with and celebrate that with is like it's really really cool and has bonded us for probably forever.
Avery, Canadian kindness is a real thing. Like my guests that are Canadian are the nicest people on the planet. I say this all the time. People are like, oh, here he goes again with the Canadian kindness thing. Like I'm telling you, it's a real thing. And even the actors that don't have a ton of episodes. So like Molly is coming on and Jamie. And for those who don't know who these characters are, Jamie is the guy that has the smile that like scares the crap out of
Mm,
you. And
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Molly is the one that they leave flowers for. But it's like every person here, regardless of how big or small their role is, adds to this. Avery, let me ask you this. So, if you had to deal with this situation, like if Avery was in the situation, I can't even believe how much of a hell situation this would be to deal with in real life. How would you, Avery, do in this situation?
Not well. I would not do well at all. As soon as the tracks came out to pop the tires of the car and we wouldn't be able to leave, I don't think I would last very long. I think the monsters would probably get me within like a couple days.
Would you take would you take the town or the house?
That's hard. I think I would take it depends who I'd come in with.
Yeah.
I think if I would came in town with people, then I might take a house. If I came in town by myself, then I would go to Colony. The town if I came in with people, and then Colony House if I drove in by myself.
And this will be the last thing to say. And it's so funny because like these monsters are so convincing. Like it's like those old school horror movies, Avery, where somebody goes into that like the dark woods, like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Like when somebody's talking to them on the other side of the window, they're so convincing. Like, and it's
Yeah.
like it's like a frustration with the show, but it's also what makes it kind of great. Like, I don't know. It's just I love it, Avery. What's around the corner for you, Avery? What can you say? What do you want to throw out there? Social media, anything that's on your mind, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Social media, if you want to follow me, it's Abe's Conrad, Aves, and Conrad with a K. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and I recently just got on TikTok. I always forget that I'm on TikTok now because I was protesting it for a long time because I knew it was going to take up all my time. But yeah, you can find me on there. And as far as new things go, nothing to report back as of right now, but things change all the time. So just if you want to follow me on those platforms, then whenever something comes up, I'm sure I'll be posting on there.
Yeah, your future's bright. I would bet on you for sure, Avery. You're super talented, and I can't wait to see what the future brings. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate all your time.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, Avery.